Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another large block ship, and this is yet another battleship, and it's called the Paragon-Class Destroyer, which is this lovely thing that I'm currently standing on top of. So this is a very big, very heavily armed ship that features assault cannon turrets on the front, we've got artillery turrets in the middle, we've got 4 on both sides, we've got gatling gun turrets at the very back, and at the very top right there, next to our small little antenna dish array made out of the truss blocks, then you've got a lone interior turret to help detect you on the very top. Round towards the front for our manual controls, well, we got some rail guns, which have been very precariously covered up by some steel blocks, but they fire out these little gaps right here. It does seem a little bit odd where the barrel is and where they're actually going to be shooting out of, but from testing, from moving around while firing, it seems all perfectly fine. And then down below here, which is a optional thing they have to download separately, is some Longbow custom missiles. So when you spawn this ship in for the first time, go through the controls, what you're going to notice is there's a set of repair welders that have been grouped together called missile welders. And well, when you look around the ship, or when you go through the control panel, there's no missiles, there's no rocket launchers on here whatsoever. But no, the creator has a separate system, which are these lovely things over here for you to connect up and will attach onto the system, and that's how you're going to be repairing them up automatically. But for this video, we're not going to touch these, so I'm simply going to delete them. But I felt like it was worth mentioning them, just because of those controls which do mention them. Anyway, back all the way up to here, what I'm going to do now is press F10, find its spawn menu, then we're going to go around the outside, have a tour of the interior, and surprisingly for the sheer size of the ship, the interior is quite tiny. Then we're going to fly around for a bit, maybe find some space pirates, if not, I'll just slam it into an asteroid. Anyway, the Paragon, if I can find its spawn menu, there it is 6,525 large blocks, using one hell of a lot of the DLC packs. We see up here a nice bit of information about it, such as the lore behind it, and of course what it can do. Down here is the specifications, which list all of its armament, and of course what it can do. Now at the very bottom it's got builder's notice, where it mentions what I just said about the missile rack that you need to download separately, and then attach onto it. So giving this thing a thumbs up, we're going to move around towards the very front, like I said, and we'll just go from here. So looking at it like so, this is what we get for the very front of the Paragon-Class Destroyer. And that's what a bunch of grey steel blocks make up the main colour scheme of the ship. To the left and right hand side of that is the railguns we already talked about to manually blast enemies with. Then on the very left and right hand side, then you've got our assault cannon turrets to automatically blast your enemies with. Move around on the side that has the sunlight, so all the way around to here, then you've got a strip of white, a strip of orange to break up all this grey, and that's how the turrets have been set up. So on the front and the back of it, we've got welders to automatically repair it up to hopefully make them last a bit longer in combat. That's going to be the same for all the turrets around this ship. Now if we move all the way across, there's a little column sticking out the back, there's a red blinking light, and all the way over here to start up our artillery turrets, we've got 4 of them on both sides, heat vent in the middle, then right behind them, much like the assault cannons at the front, we then have some welders. So all the way past this section, we can just about make it out right there, so putting on my light, there are the welders, and we can turn it on and off as we please. Pulling away, back to where we were, and then continuing all the way across. And there we are, so we've got a side docking pad right there with some more red lights. Towards the back, we then got some more brownish orange steel blocks, as well as some more white. Here's your gatling gun turrets with one on the opposite side, as well as the start of our hydrogen thrusters, which is the only form of thrusters that appear on this ship. And then we do have a little bit of decoration in the form of some orange armoured panels just sticking out slightly. Looking on the sides, there we are, how that's been set up. And on the very back here, very common appearance for large ships. Then you've got a bunch of beam blocks go all the way around our large thrusters at the back, and then on the end of that, we've got some armoured panels just to create a little housing to cover them all up and make them look all nice and neat. Putting on my light, looking like so, there's all the armoured panels going all the way around in a corrugated black skin. We've got steel blocks in the middle, just cover up all the gaps where our 4 large hydrogen thrusters are sitting. Turning my light, moving all the way up and looking down. Now we just go all the way across like so, bring the sunlight back around just a little bit. That'll do quite nicely. And there we are at the very back. So what I initially thought was a large hydrogen tank is in fact some curved steel blocks here all the way around in the black colouring, just break up the whole base of the vehicle. But that's been lined up by a bunch of hydrogen thrusters, they've been covered up on top by some passageways. And over here is our lone interior turret sitting on the truss pillar to help protect the top of the vehicle. But yes, at the back here, here's our decoys acting as a fake antenna array, which are once again sitting on truss blocks in a T-shape, comes all the way down. Across here on the top, got another assault cannon turret. Moving all the way across, in fact, that's going to be an artillery turret. I do get them mixed up still. But across here, here's the artillery turrets on the opposite side. There's your steps go all the way down and inside. And as you can clearly see right here, we've got 2 doors to act as an airlock. And there is a program block on this, so they will close up automatically behind you and will help prevent you from leaking oxygen. Yes, there's another connector to help dock this thing up. You can see on the opposite side a green blinking light. Across where I'm standing, you could use this as a small docking bay if you did want to dock up a small level fighter to come with you. And we'll keep that connection point right next to me. Spare? No, across to here, beam blocks onto a blaster edge block, onto another connector with a merge block on top. Over here, there's a remote control block, as well as another truss pillar with a top mount camera on top of it. And all the way down underneath is, past our railguns, onto this section, moving the sunlight back around once again. That should do quite nicely. And then all the way across. So there's some magnetic plates to land yourself down on. There's the bottom artillery turrets. Over here's a connector to dock it up, or of course use the Longbow missile array, which you download separately. There's all the welders to actually weld up that missile array once you use them. Across here, more magnetic plates. There's another turret which has been partially housed up by some armored panels around the edge. There's another interior turret, more hydrogen thrusters. Then rather than being completely rounded like on the top, we then have a flat surface with another interior turret at the very back. Getting closer over to this section, we see more raised armored panels. And that's about it for the outside of the Paragon-Class Destroyer. And it looks bloody fantastic how it's been set up. Got a lot of firepower all around this thing, but the way it's been set up makes it not so overpowered in combat, because the artillery guns, which are going to be doing most of the work, can only shoot from the side. So essentially you have to broadside your enemies, which will then limit what all the other guns can actually do. But no, what I'm going to do now is grab hold of my character, because it's now time to have the interior tour. So turning around, now we'll pass the connector, and we'll all the way down these steps into the doorway. So opening up this, onto here, after a short delay, thanks to this simple door script, it'll close up, then that doorway will automatically open up. Opening up this, it's going to be very, very dark in here, but here's a long ladder shaft to go all the way down. And here we are on the interior. So in this section is a very small junction, where we've got armory lockers lining the room. We've got a doorway to go towards the front to actually drive it around. Then 2 doorways on the very left and right hand side to actually do different things. Coming through this doorway, first of all, is going to take us to a small little bunk quarters or small living quarters. We see beds lining the room, lockers, tables. Around here's your kitchen block to cook your food and of course to wash up. Onto this side is an LCD screen showing you a small advertisement, but I suppose you could consider that a TV screen at the end of the day. There's an air vent to make sure you don't suffocate. A little crate to store a few bits and bobs inside. But as for that, that's that for this room. So now we come out of this, to the opposite side, and then into here. So this is like a small little command center, or maybe even just a place for your laboratory or your medical bay to actually do their experiments on, monitor what's going on in the other room, because to the right hand side that is your medical bay, with a full on block and everything else. But no, we've got desk lining the room, we've got a vent controller in the wall, there's a cargo container to store a few bits and bobs inside, as well as the easy dump stuff in and out. Onto the opposite side, air vents, and then not much else. Opening up this doorway, like I said, here's your medical bay, lab table on the side, medical bay block, and around here, not too much is going on. So suppose while people are inside this room, you have scientists in the desk, just monitoring what's going on. Anyway, hopping out this section because that's all there is in this part. It's now time to come towards the very front, past the armory lockers, open up the doorway, and here we are into a small intermittent room, which is like a small little security bay, or maybe a captain's quarters, to well do some work on. Lining the room, we've got a bunch of different blocks, we've got a button panel over here showing a logo. We then got programmable blocks, but this is a simple door script. There it is right there. Another programmable block with nothing going on with it, so you can set up whatever you want for this one. Then over here is another button panel showing your hydrogen and power usage, and then buttons on the side with nothing set up. Anyway, so we sit in this desk, do some work. Once we're done with that, we now hop out of this, then heading through here, get into the seat to actually drive it around. So looking around here, we're not going to be able to see anything outside this ship. It's completely pitch black in here. Well, I say pitch black, we're still going to get the red light from the previous room, but in the third person view, this is what we get. So then what's going to be for your camera to see what's going on ahead of you. And that's going to be your top mounted camera, so you can actually clearly see where you need to aim the guns, or where you need to fly the ship. Coming out of that, pressing number 2, so this is going to be for your repair system all around the ship. With the free camera coming all the way over to this, what we're going to see behind these turrets is the welders have now activated. Toggling it on, toggling it off, well that's the opposite round, but you get what I mean. And well, that's how you control that. But of course, if you leave this on, what you're going to notice towards the back of the ship for whatever reason is the projector is projecting the entire ship, so if you do take damage, you'll be able to repair it up manually if you want to do that. But yes, you may want to have it turned off, otherwise you're going to have these flickering textures on the very rear of the ship. Anyway, number 2 is for your turrets to turn them on and off, and then got number 4 for your railguns at the very front to manually fire them. So doing that, firing them. And there we go, so perfectly safe at the end of the day with how they've been positioned, despite looking very, very risky. Number 5 is for your hydrogen thrusters all around the ship, turn it on and off, and with them turned off, we will not be able to drive this thing around, because we can still wiggle it if you want to still wiggle the ship. Number 6, number 7 is then for your magnet plates below the ship to lock and lock them and to turn them off. Number 8 is for your antenna on and off, and then number 9 is for your missile launchers, which is the ones below the ship, so bring the camera all the way down to here, and then onto this section, press number 9, and there we go, they turn on, turn off. As for, like I said earlier, the Longbow missile rack, which you have to download separately. And if you don't have it, well, all you're going to do is repair out that connector, which I suppose is also a good thing at the end of the day. Now back to this, tab number 2, we then got our jump drives to control the range, turn it on and off. Press number 5, we see we can jump 1,774.81 kilometers, which is bloody good stuff for 2 jump drives on the large block ship. So we're going to do that right now, hopefully that will cause some space pirates to spawn, because if not, that's all there is for the controls. So in 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go. And there we are for a nice long jump. So while we're waiting for the enemies to actually spawn in, it's time to do a thruster test to see how this thing handles. So moving forwards, here we go. And as you expect from a large ship with 4 large hydrogen thrusters, we've got some great speed right behind it. Come to a stop, we are quite a bit slower than moving forwards, but you want to do a 180, and luckily we do have plenty of gyroscopes on here to do a 180 in a reasonable amount of time, help stop yourself in an even more reasonable amount of time. Anyway, letting that come to 0. That'll do, moving left. And moving right, we are very, very slow with that. A stark contrast for moving forwards and backwards. Moving down, not as bad as move left and right, but still slower than forwards and backwards. And then moving up, again, it's not as fast as moving forwards and backwards, but still better than left and right. But that does mean we can't go on a planet, or at least a planet with high gravity, we will slam into the ground. Now, as you saw from the gyroscopes, moving this thing around, got plenty of control over this. That is to be expected from a ship with manual guns. You will want to be able to track the target and of course shoot the enemy with your rail guns. There we go. Anyway, turning on the HUD. Is there any space pirates around here? I'm not too sure there's gonna be. I suppose I could always turn that off so it doesn't get displayed on the screen at all times. So what I will do is have a look through the spawn menu, see if there's any actual space pirates in space. But if not, I'll just slam it into an asteroid, and that'll be that for this video. So I could not find any space pirates, so instead of slamming into an asteroid, because I want to test out the repair system on the ship, I've spawned in another version of the ship, given this one to space pirates. I'm simply going to drive up to it, see what kind of damage I can deal to it, and of course see how effective those repair systems are. So driving forwards, here we go, it's sitting right behind that asteroid. You might be able to make out in the distance using the camera. There it is right there, sitting there all menacingly. And while driving over there, there will be the Skybox currently using. It's a very fancy one, very colourful, and not quite as dark as the other ones I usually use, but still looks very nice, especially from a planet surface, which has the atmosphere removed. And there we go, we now open fired, they're starting to return fire against me, we're taking a lot of bad hits on the front there. We can see a few blocks there which are in dire need of repairing. We're going to keep going ahead of it, and in fact what I am going to do now is turn around, broadside it with the artillery guns, there we go, a nice big bit of damage coming off there. We are taking a lot of shots on the side, but we are still in one piece. We see the turrets are still firing, they are still being repaired up and going. We see on the front there it is, that's a very good example of the repair system. That turret is taking a heavy beating. We can see all the steel blocks just bouncing back into positions, but I believe the welders have taken damage, they have been destroyed, and now they're not repairing up that turret, so that turret is now disabled. We see the artillery guns are still firing, but there we are, the turret at the front there has now been destroyed. Spinning around once again so we can use the opposite side. We see the decoys are also gone, turning around like so. There we go, that was a fantastic broadside. And now we're just going to drive all the way over to it and around. So there's a lot of smoke coming off this thing, but due to that we're fighting another version of the ship which is also very heavily armed. We're doing absolutely fantastic, and now we're going to get a very, very hard beating from that, so we've got to broadside it, and that's got to broadside me. And all the artillery guns are going to start blasting into the side. There we go, there's the first volley. Looking at this side, what is going on? It looks like the welders are still doing a good job. The welders on the side next to the artillery turrets are doing a fantastic job. That positioning is a lot better than the ones at the front. They are trying to weld up the assault cannon turrets. Due to the fact they have the artillery guns in front of them, the artillery guns are absorbing the impact, allowing the welders to basically go undamaged and just constantly repair itself up. Actually looking at the damage on the ship, turn on the lights, and there we are. So all the artillery guns have survived. On the front there, we can see the assault cannon turret did not survive. It looks like we only got one of the welders, but no, that does seem to be a bit of a problem with the ship. But again, if you're going headfirst onto the enemy, it shouldn't matter because the steel blocks next to it should absorb most of the impacts. But broadsiding it to try and use the artillery guns on the side does seem to have a big issue for the turrets at the front. So looking at this side once again with the sunlight onto it. If I can, that'll do quite nicely. We see we lost the heat vent on the front. We lost a bunch of steel blocks behind it. There we are, so that's still in one piece. Going towards the back of the ship. Looks like we are missing a couple blocks on the top there and on the side. We lost the gatling gun as well. Towards the very back. Not much is going on there. On this side, because that's the side we started with. See, the connector is smoking. Heat vents are gone. The artillery turrets once again have survived. And of course we saw in this section, yes, the assault cannon turret is also gone. In fact, that lost a lot of blocks on the back there. And like the opposite side, we still have one of the wielders, but it is broken. On the very front, there we are. Still got the railguns. Bunch of steel blocks are missing. Underneath is a little bit of damage. But no, at the end of the day, that did a fantastic job. Decoys on top did their job. And of course the wielders on the middle also did their job, protecting the more valuable turrets to blast enemies with. But with that, that's pretty much it for the ship, all it has to offer inside and out. There'll be a link to it in the description below to download and play around yourself. Highly recommend you do. That's where the link to Skybox currently using. I'll be back with another video sometime soon. Bye bye.